Hey, True Believers, Englentine here. I've been doing this for quite a while. I've been talking about identity politics, the race swapping, the gender swapping, the whole nine yards for years now. And it just so happens that a video that my brother wrote and I recorded has become relevant again. So I figured, you know what? Let's dust this off. It was done with my other mic, so it doesn't sound so good. So I'm re-recording this, but the message is relevant and I think it should be heard. So let's get this party started. Whosoever holds this hammer, if he be worthy, shall possess the power of Thor. Not the identity, but the power. Funny thing is this video actually started off as a history. I want to bring back the history of comics and where we talk about certain issues or certain things, like Storm's Mohawk video that I did not too long ago and then re-released. Yeah, it's a very interesting topic. My brother wanted to do one, as a matter of fact. This was supposed to be a video talking all about Mjolnir and Thor's relationship with the hammer, but okay, so Lady Jane is announced for the MCU, and so we have to talk about Lady Thor again, and I'm sorry, I know you call her Mighty Thor if you buy into it, but we don't. It's Lady Thor. The weird thing is when all of this identity politics started, the MCU, which is the comic book shop's greatest advertisement if they did it right, was not resembling what was on the page at Marvel Comics, and we had a bit of beef of this. You know, it just didn't match, and now the MCU has Lady Thor. So what do you think we're going to get in the comic book pages again, guys? One of the most iconic items in comic book history. It's as recognizable as Captain America's shield or Iron Man's armor if you want to go over to DC, Green Lantern's ring, and I love the fact that the name literally translates into grinder. And it made its first Marvel Comics debut in the same issue as Thor: Journey into Mystery, number 83 in 1962. Now, the Marvel Thor does take a departure from the original Norse stories, as the original Thor is more of a crudely mannered doofus, and the Marvel Thor is more the square-jawed hero that you would see in action-adventure movies from 1960. So according to Marvel continuity, at least at the time of this recording, and let me tell you, they change it up so they could deconstruct over and over and over, so it might not be the same now. But Odin was fighting a giant storm named the God Tempest, or the Mother of Thunder. And this is a storm that's so powerful it could cause problems to black holes. So, nothing to mess around with. Odin had this piece of metal he got as a gift from the dwarves, and Nidavellir, I probably said that wrong, excuse me, the names are sometimes hard, but he ordered the dwarves to use this piece of metal to forge the hammer Mjolnir. And much like we see in the movie Infinity Wars, the dwarves had to use the heat of a star in order to smelt that Uru metal. So when it came time for Thor to take up Mjolnir, at this point in time he was still a bit of a doofus, going down to the bars with his friends, getting into bar brawls, and basically being as dumb as he is big. Or even cause trouble for him, and this is why Odin put restrictions on who could use Mjolnir. Whosoever holds this hammer, if he be worthy, shall possess the power of Thor. And these days, in the eyes of some comic book collectors, what makes a person worthy is up for debate. Nick Spencer during Secret Empire believed that if you are worthy in your own cause, no matter if you are running the world's most evil secret empire or not, you could be worthy to hold the hammer of Thor. But to be fair, the writing on Mjolnir was changed. The enchantment was changed. Although I will say this, modern day writers may believe in moral relativism. I just don't think the enchantment on Thor's hammer should. I prefer to go back to the Roy Thomas years where a lot of the Marvel Mighty Thor morality was based. Being noble, courteous, charitable, willing to take a stand for what is right. and possessing a sense of sobriety. And yeah, I'm not talking about don't drink. We don't want a Thor that doesn't drink. We're going old school sobriety, possessing wisdom, level-headedness. When Thor was able to control his impulsive nature, that is when he found himself worthy of possessing Mjolnir. If you're not worthy, you can't even lift the hammer. Why? I don't know. Have you read the inscription? He who holds the hammer, if they be worthy, shall possess the power of Thor. You can hold the hammer. If you're not worthy, then you don't possess the power of Thor. It doesn't say he who is not worthy can't even lift the motherfucker. Why? Why is it that people can't hold it? Okay, I'm sure I missed a story somewhere in there, but anyway, that's just a rant in the middle of all of this. Man with boobs, power of hammer. That's what we're talking about. What you do get if you possess the power of Thor, with the hammer, you can fly, you can have the hammer returned to you from no matter where you throw it, you can control the weather on a global scale, open interdimensional portals, and at one point in time, it would change your clothes into a personalized version of the Thor outfit. I'm pretty sure there's more in there, but those are the most awesome. What you don't get is Thor's history, memories, or identity. Point in fact, you remember when this guy possessed the hammer and got the power of Thor? Yeah, do you know what he never became? Thor. He remained Superman. Which leads us up to why I brought you all here in the first place. Not just to give you a little history lesson on Mjolnir, but to talk about a character trope called Man with Boobs, or in this case, Lady Thor. Jane Foster's not the first character to possess the hammer, to possess the power of Thor. There have been over 16 canonical characters, 2 DC characters. She's not even the first female character in Marvel to possess the power of Thor. And at no time did any of these people possess the memories, history, and identity of Thor. Thor, Odin, and Bor, the Asgardians, Barry and Magni, the Destroyer, Conan, Sif, Rogue, Charles Xavier, Alex Power, Black Widow, Roger Norville, Air Walker, Eric Masterson, Beta Ray Bill, Captain America, the 2 DC characters, Wonder Woman and Superman, and let's forget about Squirrel Girl. She should be a parody character off to the side of everything, but for some reason there she is in canon. And that's just to name a few. None of them became Thor. None of them. They had the power, they used it, but Thor remained Thor. Look, I know comics and I know the rules, and I know that Marvel Comics has used many character names as if they were mantles rather than identities. Captain America is a great example of being a mantle that can be donned by any character at any point in time. We think of Captain America as Steve Rogers, but it's also been possessed by Bucky Barnes, James Smith, Clint Barton, John Walker, Sam Wilson. But Thor is different, and for one reason. Thor is an identity, not a mantle. It's his name. It's not what he calls himself. It's his identity. It's the name that his parents gave him at birth. But according to Marvel, at least, Lady Thor is Thor. And this is more than just a simple case of mantle transferring. This is an entire identity. Having Jane Foster pick up the hammer of Thor and say, "Hey, I am Thor," is very much like Sam Wilson picking up the shield, putting on the tights, and saying, "Hey, finally, I'm Steve Rogers." It's the power of Thor that's passed down, not the name, not the identity, not the history. So then wait a second, what's going on here? Very simple. Thor can't get his hammer up, therefore, he's emasculated, he's impotent, and he loses his identity. There you go. The hammer is a phallic symbol, if ever we've seen one. Disgraced fat Thor runs away from responsibility, which means a woman must step up. A man's power is locked within his virility. That's Marvel's message here, and if he can't do it, by God, a woman's gonna stand up and take the mantle from him. But let's be honest. Jane Foster's been around since Donald Blake, since Thor's in Marvel Comics. She's got a long and storied history here. If there's ever a character that would be worthy of possessing the power of Thor, it would be Jane Foster. And why not? There's no problem with that. As a matter of fact, if you look at most of the pushback on the Jane Foster Thor, it's not the fact that Jane Foster now possesses the power of Thor. It's that Jane Foster now possesses the identity of Thor. And that is the difference. That's what we're arguing here. One of the worst things done with Jane Foster's Thor was that she picked up the hammer and all of a sudden had all of the memories, all of the history, all of the fighting experience that Thor had. One of the better things about Eric Masterson's run was it was a plot point that he didn't know, that he had to learn. And that's one of the problems with this character. They're not letting her grow. There's no growth. It's immediate. Boom. Done. She's a Mary Sue. Instead of having a full-fledged character, which Jane Foster deserves, considering her history. She deserves her own identity, considering her history. But they would rather, in my opinion, go this sexist route and say, no, you are, as we're going to talk about in just a moment here, a man with boobs. In her Women vs. Tropes video series, Anita Sarkeesian called the practice of making Ms. Male heroes, these are basically just gender-flipped versions of already established male heroes, sexist. And this may surprise you, but I kind of agree, and I think it takes away from the power of the female character to do this. Barbara Gordon was much more interesting as Oracle than she is as Batgirl. The practice of using Ms. Male characters just reinforces gender stereotyping that the male is the default hero, that the woman is the exception. Yet every time Lady Jane is announced, then all of the identitarians go crazy thinking this is female empowerment. But when it comes down to it, just a gender-flipped Thor. Her entire identity is based upon the fact that a man came along and did it first. She wouldn't exist had it not been for the fact that a male character of the same name existed before her. And she's also an example of what Anita Sarkeesian called man with tits. For my thumbnail, I'm going to call it man with boobs. The worst part of the gender flip character is when you have every other character in the Marvel Universe talk to us like this is the best version of Thor ever, and the older version never really counted. This happens quite a bit in both Marvel and DC. It doesn't help when writer Jason Aaron decides he's going to declare that this is not She-Thor, this is not Lady Thor, this is not Thorita, this is Thor. This is now the Thor of the Marvel Universe. And it's unlike any other Thor that you've ever seen before. And if you don't agree with us, you are a bad person. And look, truth is, whether you like it or not, Lady Jane does have her fans. She's not a completely unpopular character. Frankly, I think the biggest flaw was how she was trotted out. How people who said, well, like we're saying here, look, yeah, have a Lady Thor. People have held the hammer before. It's just not the identity. Give her own identity. And then we're called all sorts of misogynist, sexist names. That's mishandling it, guys. You are looking for an audience that is said to exist. They're reading manga, by the way. And you are willing to throw away your loyal fan base to get them. Longtime comic geeks aren't going off on Jane Foster just because she holds the hammer. We've been around the block on this one. This isn't our first rodeo. You should want both sides. You should want all of the fans. But you literally say, these comics aren't for you anymore. That's ignorant. We call you out because we believe in the continuity and we believe in these characters, but you want to see it as a character flaw because you want to have free reign. And that's one of the big problems with comic books now. You do not pay attention to continuity, and guess what? Your fans do. Unfortunately, it looks like the MCU is going to make a lot of the same mistakes that the Marvel comic book industry has created. And that would be to cater to an audience that just isn't there, that's not going to show up and put their money where their mouth is. And in all honesty, these identitarians, if they really did care about the diversity that they say they care about, that they would want original female characters or established female characters from the MCU to be in their movies rather than just a gender-flipped hero, just a man with boobs. Because in the end, this is a temporary concession, not a permanent solution. But that's just my opinion. What is yours? What do you think about this whole MCU female Thor thing versus the comic book female Thor? This was kind of talking about both of them because I really do agree with what my brother wrote here about the gender flip, about the man with boobs. kind of thing. If the writer is Jane, then I think they could succeed where the comics failed. Anyway, let me know what you think in the comments below. Don't forget to click like and share if you think this video is worthy. YouTube stopped sharing my videos. If you ever watch a live stream, I'm stuck with all the kitty stuff, and it's really sick. So if you don't mind sharing, this would be awesome. Also, if you don't mind helping out the channel, go on over to Patreon or to Ko-Fi. The links are in the description below. You can drop $1 in the till. It's very grateful to you if you would like to do that. And while you're at Ko-Fi, you can commission yourself a video. We got Bad Comic Beatdown category, Really That Bad. There's also the Comic Book Origins videos and Comic Books Were Better. Those are the top 10 lists. I have a lot of fun with those. And the Minority Character Comic Book Origins and Really That Good. So you pick the category and I do the video. Easy peasy. I'd like to thank everybody who's already done that. And to everyone, all of the true believers, thank you very, very much for watching.